Good morning to you. It is time to skip the BS. It is time for Undisputed. Time for Richard Sherman and Keyshawn Johnson to bash my Cowboys while they can. Morning, haters.
Morning. Morning, Skip.
Okay.
Hating because we telling the truth. Ain't that special?
Speaking of telling the quote-unquote truth, Jerry Jones was at it again yesterday on his radio show, making statement after debatable and sometimes head-scratching statement. We will break down several Jerry bombs during today's show.
Jerry bombs.
Yeah, but let's start with what he said about Dak Prescott. Now, Jerry did say Sunday night was very disappointing and that we should, quote-unquote, not mislead ourselves about that. But he said nothing major will change, that Mike McCarthy will not give up play calling to Brian Schottenheimer. Jerry said, as far as sitting here saying we should completely change the towels here, that's not even in the cards, and it's really ridiculous, said Jerry Jones. So full speed ahead with Dak at quarterback. Richard, I start with you. Do you believe Jerry fully believes in Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I have to believe it. I mean, at this point, what other choice does he have? He doesn't have another choice. He's stuck with him for the next couple years, so he must invoke confidence in Dak Prescott. If he doesn't, I mean, what are they going to do? He's going to say, hey, I don't believe in Dak. We're going to go try to get somebody else to get on this playoff run and win a Super Bowl. He's not going to do that, Skip. He's going to say what he needs to say to make sure that Dak Prescott and this team feels confident that their ownership is behind them going forward into the playoffs, into the end of the season. But at the end of the day, his actions will speak louder than words. If he pays him another extension, that will tell me he believes in him and he believes he can take him to the promised land.
Yeah, I think at some point in time, though, the extension part of the equation will certainly factor in. But I think as right now, I believe everything that Jerry said because Jerry believes it.
Right.
And we continue to talk about this all the time, Skip. We keep going over this same scenario with Dak Prescott since he's been the starting quarterback in the National Football League for the most part. Every single year, this is a conversation. We had the same conversation every single year about Tony Romo. Tony Romo would still be the starting quarterback of Dallas Cowboys if he didn't get hurt. He'd still be, because Jerry, you know how Jerry is. He's a loyal dude, Skip. So if he was still available and able to play, he'd still be the quarterback. But he needs to get help. Dak Prescott cannot do it by himself. No quarterback does it by himself.
Right.
Everybody. Even though we take quarterbacks and we raise them to a different level, even though we take the great Tom Brady and we put him at a different level, Tom Brady need help. He could not do it by himself. This is why
I don't know about that.
This is why he bolted.
Stop it.
This is
You were
why
doing so well and you just stepped out of bounds.
This is why he bolted out of New England, because he could not do it by himself.
He got
This is
pushed
why
out.
he no, he did not get pushed out.
Stop it.
He decided to leave to go to a better team with better players so he can win another Super Bowl. He did not have that luxury in New England.
Super Bowls with scraps.
I understand. You say he went to the Super Bowl with scraps. I don't say that. Now when you look at the situation with Dak Prescott doesn't play defense, Richard. He does not. Yeah. He doesn't play defense.
Neither did Tom.
He does not play defense. And so when you look at it, you have to get help from everybody, not just the quarterback. We continue to bash Dak Prescott because he may have thrown an interception. We expect him to show up on Monday and Sunday nights. It hasn't happened for him, so we do it. We did it to Peyton Manning for years. He couldn't get past Tom Brady. He couldn't win in the playoffs. He couldn't do this. And then eventually, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all times because eventually he started getting past those sort of things. So you got to slow down. There's no other quarterback to get. Who you going to go get?
Well, there is one on their roster right now who could be the answer next year.
Who was that?
He used to play for the 49ers, and he was the second or third overall pick, I believe he was. Third overall pick. So somebody named Kyle Shanahan, somebody named Mike Shanahan thought he was really, really good because they spent 3 first-rounders and a bunch of other rounders to go up and get Trey Lance. All right, back to your premise, Keyshawn. Jerry's a loyal dude. I don't sense the loyalty between Jerry and Dak that existed between Jerry and Romo or Jerry and Zeke, because there's been a divide between the two of them, and it dates all the way back to their very messy and ugly contract negotiation that ended in Jerry getting taken to the cleaners and ultimately to the bank by Dak and his agent. And I think Jerry did that with gritted teeth, and he finally just gave in because, as you said, what was his other option? What was plan B? I pushed hard, speaking of Tom Brady. He was on the market for a minute. Jerry, just go get him. Just for 2 years, just commit to Tom Brady and say that's enough of Dak Prescott. But Jerry and Dak are not tight the way Jerry gets with his sons, as we've known. Tony Romo was like a son to him. So there's no deep loyalty between Jerry and Dak. But the point about yesterday was, to your point, Richard, they're stuck at least for the rest of this year. So what exactly do you want Jerry to say? I know what I'd like him to say behind closed doors, but he can't say it publicly because we're 5 games into 17. So it was a devastation. It was an annihilation. It was a humiliation. It brought you back to ground zero. You feel like you have to start over. But with what? So Jerry has been doing this for so long, since 1989, that he knows the highs and he knows the lowest of lows. He's been there and done this before. He's suffered these kinds of defeats. You cannot panic and overreact 5 games into a season.
So why are you?
Because I've seen enough, because I first guessed it 3 years ago. I started to say, this guy is just good enough to keep his job. He's just good enough to get you to the big games with hopes high and to crush your soul. That's what he does. Regularly, he crushes your soul. So, again, did you see Deion's speech after his press conference after the Arizona State game on Saturday night? He went into mediocrity, and he said he blasted his team, and he should have, because they didn't play very well, and they barely overcame a bad Arizona State team with a walk-off field goal. And Deion went into the mediocrity speech. I don't do mediocrity. I don't do it in my personal life, my private life. I don't do it in my public life or my professional life. We don't do mediocrity. That's how I feel about the Dallas Cowboys, because they are America's team. They are the biggest draw in all of sports. They are the most valuable team in the world. And I don't want a mediocre quarterback, and he's mediocre good is what he is. He's just mediocre. He'll have some big games. He's had his moments before. We've all seen them. But in the end, that will happen. And I've been soul crushed so many times. I don't want to do it anymore, because the definition of insanity is repeating the same mistake over and over and over again and throwing good money after bad with Dak Prescott. But Jerry, at this moment, has to say, yeah, I believe in him, because what else can he say at this moment? But I believe in his heart of hearts, he's thinking exactly what I'm thinking. I got to figure a way out from under this.
Well, he can't figure out a way. And I like your use of vocabulary. You're talking about contemplation. You know, let's talk about the 49er game, because there was a lot of intimidation from a team that could force them into elimination. I don't think that Dak Prescott is going anywhere in Dallas. I think he'll be there, Skip, for another 5 to 6 years. Yeah. So get used to it. Be comfortable. He is a better quarterback than you've given him credit for. You're not about to keep saying he's mediocre. There are mediocre quarterbacks in the National Football League. He is not one of them. There are quarterbacks that play at an average level year after year, and you're like, their team has no chance. What he needs from your defense, he's not receiving. You want to give all the credit to 11 from heaven. You want to say this is a legendary defense, but then you don't want to hold him accountable when things go bad. Dak is doing what Dak has done. He'll have some really good games. You saw him in the first round of the playoffs last year versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Threw for 300, a bunch of touchdowns, ball over balled out. But then you need your defense to show up. You need your defense to make big plays, to bail them out. I played on a Super Bowl team. We only need the quarterback to do enough. Hey, do enough. Don't throw the game away. We'll handle it from there. And if you do, we'll bring it back. Because we've won NFC Championship games where the quarterback has thrown 4 interceptions, and we found a way to win.
You did.
Because
against Aaron Rodgers.
Because against Aaron Rodgers, when he won the MVP that season. We found ways to win when the team, we scored 20-something points. You know, it's just 20 points. Hey, we got to hold them to 17. Cool, we'll get the job done, because that's what elite defenses do. Now, if you want to take the elite label off your defense, you want to take the elite legendary label off your defense and call them what they have been. They've been solid. They've been solid. They played great versus bad teams. They played terrible versus a good team. We'll see how they do the rest of the way. But stop blaming everything on Dak.
Yeah,
It's a quarterback's game. In the end, it starts and it ends with that guy, no matter how you slice it. Even Keyshawn's 2002 Buccaneers won the championship with a Brad Johnson who he was mediocre, but he was on the high side of mediocre.
No.
He played well enough.
What I'm not going to do is sit here and allow you to say that he was mediocre, because he was not mediocre. What he was is he was efficient. He knew what to do with the football. He knew who to get the football to.
You know
he
who
understood
he was?
the offense.
He was Cooper Rush.
But whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, whether
Yep.
he was Cooper Rush, whether he was Brock Purdy, whatever you want to call it, when our defense needed to rise to the occasion, they rose to the occasion.
Like Derek.
Okay? So when we didn't say, oh my God, Brad just threw a pick, we're in trouble. That's the way y'all act with Dak Prescott. Just like Richard just said, Dak Prescott has had some phenomenal moments in the National Football League. Let's just not act as though he's a terrible guy. He can't play the position. We need to go find another guy. Now we got Trey Lance sitting there. Let's insert him into the lineup, because you're going to hit the reset button, Skip. I don't know how many times I got to tell you. If you get rid of Dak Prescott, for however you do it, swallow the $60 million on the salary cap, move on from him, you're going to hit the reset button. So you're going to live in misery for another 10 years while you sit on these shows and talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is just fine. You need CeeDee Lamb to show up. You need Ferguson to show up. You need Gallup to show up. You need Pollard to show up. You need Brandon Cooks to figure out how to use, or them to figure out how to use that elite speed that he still has. And on the defensive side, your players have to take the next step.
Yes, they do.
They do. They just do. I'll leave it at this. Say what you want. That defense in Denver at the end for Peyton Manning, you can give Peyton Manning credit for the Super Bowl all you want. But it was all about that defense. It wasn't about him. We want to make it about him because that's just what we do. But it was about Von Miller and them dudes coming off that edge and DeMarcus Ware and company.
MVP?
Defense. So if your defense steps up, Skip, you may have an opportunity and a chance.
What did I tell you before the season started? My team will go as far as my defense carries my team. What did I pound the table about on Monday morning? First thing, first words out of my mouth. My biggest fear and concern was my defense did not show up, as in my pass rush did not show up. And to this moment, I am still losing sleep over what happened to my pass rush, because I'll say it again. San Francisco had to replace 2 offensive line starters. The left tackle is really good, because I watched him in college be really, really, really good at the University of Oklahoma. He is still at the top of his game, but I thought Tyron Smith was too. I thought Zach Martin was too. And they were mediocre in this game. But back to my pass rush. The point is that there was no pass rush. It was a hush of a rush.
Oh, I like
because all of a sudden, Micah Parsons became Micah Missing Parsons, as in missing persons, right? Because he was a missing person. Micah Missing Parsons. Where were you? Where were you, DeMarcus Lawrence, after all your big, bad, bold talk about this is the best defense in the league? Nobody can match us in the energy and blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Kyle Shanahan used your words against you on Saturday night in a hype video for the 49ers, DeMarcus Lawrence. Where were you? Micah, where were you in 3 straight games against the best team in the league, the 49ers? You have 0 sacks in 3 games. Saturday night, after you'd played 9 straight games with 5+ pressures a game, 5+ a game or more, you had 2 pressures. It's not good enough. I'm still dumbfounded that even though they doubled Micah, they double all the what great one doesn't get doubled? What great one? Keyshawn, did you get doubled ever in your career? Yeah, you got doubled like every play of your career.
Figure it out.
You just figure it out.
Right.
Micah, you just have to figure it out. You have to break free. You have to outwill them. Whatever you have to do to get a hand in the face or a hand on the shoulder pad, or maybe even throw the quarterback once on the ground. I have such a deep pass rush that they usually come from everywhere.
Maybe you don't.
Okay, but against the all the other, mediocre teams, if you will, in the league, it's like everybody feels mediocre in the league except for San Francisco. And I told you, they might be the elite of the league. We might be seeing an all-time great team that we're going to start putting up there in the echelon with the 70 Steelers and the 85 Bears and your 2002 Bucks and the Ravens of 2000. We go on. They might be that team on both sides of the ball with their special teams because they looked all-time great on Sunday night, and they're on that arc. But my point is, we got Brock Purdy on the ground. One time, I think we have the play. We didn't show it the other day. It feels like it was a broken play in which he's just scrambling forward. He's not even, here it is. And it's a weak side rush, and he's just going to run with the football. And it's a 2-yard loss by my safety. And that it doesn't even feel like it should qualify as a sack. That's the closest we got to a quote-unquote sack the whole night. In all the other games, the quarterback is terrorized. Obviously, it was Daniel Jones, and it was Zach Wilson, and it was Mac Jones.
There you go. There you go. Now you're getting to it.
I got it. But how many times did you see those three quarterbacks take one step back to plant, to throw, and all of a sudden the sky falls?
I see it every week with them.
Boom. They come from
That's
everywhere.
the thing you don't get, Skip.
No,
I see that every week with them. I saw Daniel Jones get sacked 11 times by the Seattle Seahawks and their ferocious pass rush. They were getting there everywhere. Your pass rush isn't what you're making it out to be, Skip. They have fooled you.
It will be against everybody but them.
It will not be. It was not against the Arizona Cardinals. Skip, what you're not understanding is you have been fooled. You have been bamboozled. The wool has been pulled over your eyes. You should understand this, Skip. That team isn't who you think they are. They are who they showed you on Sunday night. They are who they showed you against the Arizona Cardinals. If you're talking about how they played against one-win teams that are going to be picking in the top 5 of the draft, Skip, and that's giving you confidence, you should be ashamed.
Okay, I still don't know how San Francisco blocked us all night.
Because it's not that hard.
Okay, and it's not that hard when your young quarterback is Brady-esque. And he is doing what Tom did at the highest level, which is get rid of the damn ball, as Keyshawn would call it, before anybody can get a hand on you. It's out. It's gone so quickly. Do you remember the Joey Bosa playoff game up in Foxborough when they had Joey mic'd up and he's saying, getting rid of the ball so fast, it just drives you crazy because you can't get there because the ball's gone. That's what Brock Purdy is doing and did do to my pass rush. All right, back to Dak Prescott. The point is, last year in the playoff game, it was 19-12. My defense showed up. Micah did not dominate. He did not game wreck. He did not take over. But if you can hold that offense to 19 as opposed to 42, you should be in the football game. And we scored 12 because my quarterback disappears in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. And not only disappears, he goes deer in headlights. So to your point, last year against Philadelphia at home, they scored 40 points on Philly's defense, the vaunted Eagles defense that got all the way to the Super Bowl. And I look at the numbers in that game. Dak was really good, 27-35 for 347 and 3 touchdowns with just 1 pick. Then you mentioned the game at Brady. He sent Tom into the sunset or into the night that night in Tampa, 25 of 33 for 305 with 4 touchdowns and no picks. He's capable of those games. And then the wool gets pulled over your eyes. You get fooled. You get bamboozled by Dak Prescott. He's the bamboozler in the equation because just when I think it's safe to say, okay, here we go. Maybe we won't win this game, but it's going to be a dog fight by a bunch of dogs. I hear them bark. I don't hear any barking on my side.
You don't hear any bark. You hear bite. That word bite. You hear bark from your side, Skip.
Maybe I hear pregame bark.
You went back in on Dak Prescott. You said 19 points to 12. How about your defense hold them to 11? I mean,
I don't.
But
Keyshawn, it's hard. They just scored 42.
But you tabbed them as a top-tier defense at the start of the season. Top-tier defense is like the guy that's sitting to my left. They hold teams to lesser than the offensive opponent so they can win the games. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers that you mentioned, they say, hey, get me 10, Key. Just get us 10, man. Get us a field goal. We're going to shut this thing down. That is what top-tier defenses do.
My friend Derek Brooks has often told me that I underestimate the 2002 Bucs, that they should be lauded and applauded as the greatest defense ever.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
It's very debatable.
I'm not going to jump up and down about it, but they should be at the top, whether you want to put them with the Steelers or not. They certainly have Hall of Famers at every single level.
Ray Lewis and company in 2000, they have a case.
However you want to, say it, because a lot of that credit,
85
obviously,
Bears have a case.
A lot of people gave a lot of that credit to John Gruden because he came over and we won the Super Bowl.
For that matter, the Legion of Boom has a case at your apex.
This is about Dak Prescott and your defense helping him in the times that he's struggling. And that has not happened.
That hasn't.
It's about the other guys on the offensive side of the ball stepping up to the plate.
You know what? I disagree.
Getting open.
Listen,
no, it's not.
Holding them to 19, that's good enough to win that game.
Did they get any turnovers, Skip? Did they cause any turnovers?
No,
they did not.
One in that game.
One? So
one in this game. And the problem with the one in this game was it was a stay of execution turnover in which little Jordan Lewis pulled it out of Christian McCaffrey's hands at the 2-yard line as he was about to score.
So you're telling me on the ground.
It was a stay of execution.
So you're telling me the team that led the league in turnovers for the last 2 years can only muster one? But now we're supposed to say you're elite. So when the time you need to be elite, you feast off the famine, but you don't feast off the beast.
Okay, why do we feast on turnovers? Because our pass rush is terrorizing quarterbacks who flinch and duck.
You know what
terrorize bad quarterbacks.
Terrorizing imposters playing the position.
Okay, so you're saying we're a bunch of frauds. I need this again because I need you
You see what happened? You see what happened when you got it the first time, Skip? Y'all got beat by 32.
Okay, 32 going into last week.
I wouldn't call them frauds. But I certainly
I think you did call them frauds, and now you're trying to walk it back because you're a little afraid of them. You're a little afraid of the firepower. You know it's still there. It was gone for a night.
They getting ready to see a big-time quarterback on Monday night.
Yes, they are.
They're getting ready to see a
They've seen him before. They know what he's about. Okay. They actually beat him 2 years ago right here in this same stadium.
Yeah, but you better pray they don't get.
I also played football some time ago, too, Skip.
Okay.
That doesn't mean anything.
Okay, but that was a long time ago.
And that game 2 years ago was a long time ago in football world.
Okay, all right. Let's continue to talk about this. Up next, Debo. He tries to put Micah right back in his place. So the question is, did he?
We debate. Tyshawn.
No mercy, no mercy, no mercy.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.